Hello everyone, Andy Schwab here with your Northern Ag TV. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is demanding that Mexico lift barriers on efforts to fight the new World Screwworm or risk losing livestock export access, that is, to the United States. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins sent a letter warning Mexico to remove restrictions on USDA aircraft and waive customs duties on sterile insect supplies by April 30th. If not, the U.S. will restrict imports of live cattle, bison, and equines. Now, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is backing the USDA's action. NCBA President Buck Worbine says that screwworm could cost U.S. producers millions if they spread north. Since November, USDA and the cattle industry have expanded surveillance and sterile fly releases, but Mexican authorities have delayed key flights, allowing the pests to spread. NCBA officials also met with Mexican leaders last week calling for urgent cooperation. And parts of the Northern Ag Territory started the week off with some pretty good amounts of moisture. However, meteorologist Brian Bledsoe believes it could be a different story when it comes to summer, as he told me historical and weather models are suggesting dry weather could be coming this summer.
Embrace the moisture that you're going to get in the near term. Embrace the warmth that you're going to get in the near term too. But you need to be, if nothing else, preparing for what could possibly be drier weather as we head during the summertime. And I think that's very important, because if we front load this moisture, before we truly get into the warm season and we shut it down, that's a really bad scenario, when we go through the summertime. So I'm not saying this is all doom and gloom or anything like that, but I'm saying we need to be very cautious moving forward, because a lot of evidence that I have before me, not only from a historical standpoint, but from a modeling standpoint, suggests dry weather headed our way as we head into the summer.
Now you can hear the entire conversation on our website under the podcast link at that Listen tab. Well, in 2006, prime beef made up just 2% of fed cattle carcasses, with 41% grading select. However, the script has now flipped. For 5 weeks straight in this year, the USDA data shows that prime carcasses averaging 11.9%, slightly edging out select at 11.1%. Certified Angus beef said it's a sign of long-term industry change driven by consumer demand and genetic improvements. Key factors also include cheap feed, improved growth tech, and higher value feeder cattle, ultimately leading to the longer feeding periods and better marbling. CAB's Paul Dykstra says it's all part of the beef quality revolution that's reshaping the industry from the ground up. And a Montana State University graduate student has been named to a prestigious National Agricultural Leadership Program. Carolyn Roeder Helle, originally from Shoto, is one of the 5 students nationwide selected for the Farm Foundation's 2025 Agricultural Scholars Program that offers mentorship and networking opportunities with USDA researchers and ag professionals. Helle, who has studied the impact of livestock grazing on wildfire risk, will start a job in economic consulting this summer while completing her thesis. Let's take a quick break and come back to talk about some of these high cattle prices.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Although this may sound like a broken record, it's one cattle guys are willing to listen to over and over and over again. New contract highs at record high prices were discovered this week and last week as feedlots held out for the higher cash cattle trade. They did so because of the $3 gains that is on the board, and that was also continued yesterday with more contract highs. Now these moves have drove up the box beef values as choice cattle values started the morning $5 higher a hundredweight on the opening bid. And the spring bull sale season is pretty well wrapped up for the year. And American Angus Association Representative Kurt Kangas said Angus bulls across Montana and Wyoming were up 14% year over year, with the average sale price on the Angus bulls coming in at $8,200. Kangas also said open commercial heifers averaged $2,500, and the 7,800 commercial bred heifers, well, they average right at $3,300. Switching over to the sheep side of the auctions, Newell Sheep Yards last week saw a good test of cull ewes and replacement sheep. Buyers in the seed stand on the internet were vying for those spring lambing sheared ewes, with prices mostly steady to the previous test. And the grain markets are continuing to have the opposite effect compared to the cattle complex, as some wheat futures are over $1 lower than their high set back in February. As a matter of fact, the May contract at KC winter wheat has now dropped $1.18 a bushel since mid-February, as the latest round of selling is coming from the rainstorms that hit Kansas and other southern plains states with 3 to 4 inches of rain. Row crop prices were also lower to start the new week, and that comes although corn and soybean futures did find some support at mid-morning, which was able to recover some of their losses. Well, that's going to do it for our Northern Ag TV. I'm Andy Schwab. Have a great rest of your day.